I'm Eric Rosales. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, diplomacy or conflict as the U.S. and European leaders consider very different options. The violence between Iran and Israel rages on. We have the latest.
The eyes of it, the eyes of it.
In the UK, an assisted suicide bill narrowly passes the House of Commons, but it's not the law of the land just yet. What happens next? Last-minute changes come to the National Eucharistic pilgrimage. We'll hear from organizers about the security concerns. Plus, a centuries-old tradition is alive and well in the Middle East. We'll take you to the Corpus Christi procession in Lebanon. These stories and much more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you so much for being with us. Our top story tonight, the clock is ticking on President Donald Trump's decision to give himself 2 weeks to decide whether to order direct U.S. military action against Iran. Today, he says 2 weeks is the maximum. Meanwhile, Israel and Iran exchange more strikes as new diplomatic efforts get underway. For the very latest, let's check in with White House correspondent Owen Jensen. Owen.
Eric, today President Donald Trump met with his national security team in the Oval Office and then later flew to New Jersey for a mega dinner. And when he landed, he spoke with reporters saying that 2 weeks is to see whether people can come to their senses. And he reiterated that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Always a peacemaker. That doesn't mean sometimes you need some toughness to make peace, but always a peacemaker.
Overseas, continued fighting. The Israeli city of Beersheba, first responders searched for wounded after an Iranian missile struck near a tech park. Extensive damage to a building and cars on fire. At the U.S. State Department, this assessment of the current situation.
As a man who is serious about everything he addresses, but in this particular kind of way, when it's existential, life and death, that he genuinely, it's not posturing. He wants to have it be solved diplomatically. He knows it can be.
European diplomats gathered in Geneva to meet with Iran's foreign minister. This marks the first face-to-face meeting between Western and Iranian officials since the conflict started.
Israel has launched an unprovoked aggression on Iran.
Iran's foreign minister also spoke at a UN Human Rights Forum. He earlier said Iran has nothing to discuss with the United States until Israel ends its attacks. Video shows a group of Iranians arriving in Turkey to seek shelter from the fighting. One U.S. lawmaker from Michigan weighed in on the ongoing attacks.
I believe that we should be using, first, all diplomatic efforts. I do not want to see the United States engaged in another war if we can avoid it, though I understand the seriousness of Iran having nuclear capability.
The mother of one hostage still being held captive in Gaza hopes there's a connection between what's going on in Iran and Gaza, and that if there's any deal struck, it ensures freedom from captivity.
But I feel that in any agreement that with Iran, it must be ensured that Iran is, instructs its proxy, Hamas, to immediately release the hostages. I think it's very important.
Israel's military says 25 fighter jets carried out airstrikes in western Iran this morning, targeting missile storage and launch infrastructure components. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you so much, Owen. Meanwhile, more destruction in Ukraine as officials say Russian drones slammed into 2 major cities. The overnight assault of more than 20 drones injured nearly 24 civilians in Odessa and Kharkiv. A fire caused by a strike engulfed a 4-story residential building, which partially collapsed, injuring 3 emergency workers. Drones in Kharkiv hit several civilian structures as well. Well, the fate of the reconciliation bill is still up in the air in the Senate. This weekend, staff from both sides of the aisle, they're meeting with the parliamentarian's office to work out tax and health provisions.
Right now, I think a fair-minded person could see that the bill in the Senate is pretty much held together with spit. That will change. How quickly it'll change, I don't know.
And for weeks, Senate Republicans promised they'd take their dangerous, unpopular House bill and fix its worst provisions. Senators went home and told their constituents, oh, don't worry, this'll change, that'll change. They said they were listening to their constituents. They lied. they lied.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune and House Speaker Mike Johnson want the GOP bill, which is filled with President Trump's domestic agenda, to the president's desk by July 4th. But there are still many obstacles, such as Medicaid spending and tax cuts, that need to be worked out. An appeals court says President Donald Trump is allowed to keep control of the National Guard troops he deployed to Los Angeles. A 3-judge panel on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals decided the Trump administration had presented enough evidence to show that he had good reason for federalizing control of the Guard. In a lower court's decision, ruled that the judge said that the president acted illegally when he activated the soldiers. United Kingdom lawmakers back a measure to allow terminally ill adults to choose to end their lives. The historic vote takes assisted suicide a step closer to becoming law.
The ayes to the right, 314. The noes to the left, 291.
The House of Commons approved the measure by only 23 votes. It now heads to the House of Lords. Those members can amend or delay the measure, but cannot overrule it. The bill allows terminally ill adults in England and Wales over the age of 18 who have less than 6 months to live to apply for an assisted death. And according to analysis from Dr. Philip Murray of Cambridge University, members of the Labour Party voted 55% in favor of the assisted suicide measure. Conservatives were 75% against it, and lawmakers from the Green Party, well, they voted 100% in favor. For more on the issue, we turn to Philip Murray, affiliated lecturer, faculty of law at the University of Cambridge. Dr. Murray, thank you so much for being with us. Now, we have to ask you, were you surprised with the result?
I wasn't surprised that ultimately it went through. I was pleasantly surprised by how close the result was. I mean, this went through on the slimmest of margins, which showed that really members of Parliament don't have a clear consensus on this issue.
Yeah, it was passed what is known as the third reading. Tell us why that is important.
So bills, when they come into Parliament, have to be voted on at 3 different stages. And at each opportunity, members of Parliament have a chance to think again carefully about whether they agree with this law and then to express their views. And what we've seen as this bill has come through the House of Commons is that the majority for the bill has got smaller and smaller. So it passed today with only 23 votes from those in favour. It was very, very close.
And earlier today, before the vote, you actually wrote on social media platform X, please MPs vote no to this. This is not a safe bill. Tell us why you said that.
Well, that's not ultimately my opinion. It's the opinion of those professional organisations who represent doctors and psychiatrists and all those who will be responsible for trying to make this law work when it comes into practice, if it does come into practice. So the Royal College of Psychiatrists, the Royal College of Physicians, the Royal College of Pathologists, the former chief coroner, the person responsible for investigating deaths in England and Wales, all of those and other groups have said that this bill is not safe, that the safeguards in the bill are inadequate.
As we mentioned, the measure now heads to the House of Lords. What are your expectations there?
Well, the House of Lords tends to be very respectful of bills passed by the House of Commons because the House of Lords is not like the Senate in the United States, an elected chamber. It's appointed, and the House of Commons carries a democratic mandate. At the same time, it is not unusual for the House of Lords to push back at bills that it thinks are unwise. It might require, for example, a series of amendments to be made to this law. And if the House of Lords doesn't think ultimately this bill is safe, it's perfectly within our Constitution for the House of Lords to refuse to enact this into law, to pass it back in effect to the House of Commons and say they don't want this bill to become law.
Well, Dr. Philip Murray, affiliated lecturer, faculty of law at the University of Cambridge, thank you so much for your insight.
You're welcome.
We have a lot more still to come on EWTN News Nightly, including a beloved tradition. We'll take you to Lebanon and show you the unique way they celebrate the Feast of Corpus Christi. And honoring a musical maestro, how Pope Leo XIV gave praise to one of the greatest composers of sacred music. Welcome back. Today is the first day of summer, and Americans are expected to hit the road in record numbers this holiday season. Gas prices are at their lowest since they've been since 2021. Now, AAA expects a record number of car travelers over the 4th of July holiday. It runs from Saturday, June 28th to Sunday, July 6th. AAA predicts nearly 62 million Americans will take a trip by car, and people traveling by air the holiday could also set a new record. Some 6 million travelers are expected to fly to their destinations. Mexico officials are assessing the damage after Hurricane Eric ripped through the region. Take a look at this. The storm caused landslides, flooding, and even down power lines. Authorities say that Eric approached the southern area of Mexico as a Category 4, but quickly weakened to a Category 3 just before making landfall. It brought heavy amounts of rain, and thankfully the bulk of the storm has now passed. An incredible story here. In 1825, the bubonic plague was spreading across the Middle East region. In Zaleh, Lebanon, the bishop urged residents to hold a procession and offer prayers before the Eucharist. Amazingly, the city was spared. So every year for the last 2 centuries, that miracle is celebrated on the Feast of Corpus Christi. EWTN's reporter Margarita Kalasi brings us the story of a powerful devotion.
This year is special for us, and we are joining today as the Lebanese Scout in order to prepare for tomorrow's. Tomorrow's is a big day.
From St. Elias Al-Tuwak Monastery to Our Lady of Deliverance Cathedral, the faithful walked in procession, eager to receive a blessing from Patriarch Yusuf Lapsi. But the celebration doesn't just end there. As dawn breaks, every church in the city offers Holy Mass, and by morning, the entire city is up again, ready to walk once more.
This is the faith, and this is the tradition of Zahle, and this is what we know with our parents and all the people.
I've been participating in this procession since I was a kid, so I love to participate in it every year.
This year, the bishops of the Holy Synod of the Melkite Catholic Church walked with the faithful in unity. The people there don't just celebrate, they carry Corpus Christi with them across borders and continents, and the story of Thanksgiving continues.
What's beautiful about the East is that we still preserve the enthusiasm to show our faith and not be ashamed of it. We're not ashamed of our cross, nor our icons, nor our hymns. We sing them in the streets, and we walk around in the streets. This is a characteristic not just of Lebanon, but of the entire Christian East.
In Zahle, Corpus Christi is more than a tradition. It is a living memory, a testimony of grace passed from generation to generation. And each year, through fire, through hope, through faith, they walk again because God's love endures and the people of Zahle will never forget. Margarita Kalasi, Zahle, Lebanon, EWTN News Nightly.
Beautiful story of faith there. Up next on EWTN News Nightly, listen to the music. Pope Leo honors one of the most influential musicians of all time. Plus, get those walking shoes ready. Learn about a new journey honoring the first American-born saint. The National Eucharistic Pilgrimage wraps up this weekend in Los Angeles. Earlier this week, it was announced that a festival planned for after the closing Mass was canceled, and the procession that was originally supposed to go through downtown Los Angeles will remain on the campus of the Cathedral of Our Lady of Angels. The city has seen a number of protests, some of them violent due to ICE raids. Organizers say the changes were made out of an abundance of caution, but the spirit of hope and healing remains.
It's been our purpose our whole time to bring hope and healing of Jesus for this whole pilgrimage during this Jubilee year. And the cathedral's right downtown. So our hope is that hope and healing comes upon Los Angeles.
Meanwhile, in Rome, Pope Leo takes time to honor one of the most influential composers of all time. Well, this week marks the 500th anniversary of the birth of Giovani de Palestrina. He is one of the most well-known composers in the history of sacred music. Addressing those in attendance, the Pope described Palestrina's work as a timeless expression of prayer and unity. A Jubilee report commissioned by Pope Francis was discussed today at the Vatican. Leaders are attempting to find solutions to resolve the current debt crisis in developing countries. EWTN Vatican News correspondent Valentina Dordonato has more, including thoughts from one of the church leaders who is leading the effort.
We are persons because we have dignity. Dignity that needs to be promoted. Dignity that's not bestowed on us by any government or any institution. It's what we're born with. Okay? And so what every government or any institution has, the job that it has, is to promote what we are born and what is natural to all of us.
Much of the world is feeling the consequences of the global debt crisis. At a Vatican conference presenting the Jubilee report to tackle the debt and development crisis and how to create an ethical financial foundation, global leaders and members of the church discussed what it takes to do that and what it takes to transform these economies long term. At the core of this talk was the report commissioned by the late Pope Francis, promoting human dignity by allowing equal opportunities to all.
We know from our research and from the work that's going on from this commission that there's over 3.3 billion people who are living out the impact of debt distress. That means a government is paying more in repaying its debt than it is spending on health and education and all those social services that we know are essential for good human development.
Members from the World Bank, leading global economists, and global think tanks gathered at the Vatican to discuss the ethics of what it takes to create good economics, addressing the fundamental dysfunctions in global financial markets. As the developing world continues to face dramatic debt and development crisis, having the dialogue of how to remedy this global issue at the Vatican is fitting, according to Mark Weisbrot, co-director of the Center for Economic and Policy Research.
This venue and the institution, the Pontifical Academy, because they really do care about the moral and humanitarian dimension, and that's very often almost absent in Washington, where these decisions are actually made, not just for the United States, but for the rest of the world, which suffers the most from them.
Today's talk focused on the systematic flaws in the global financial architecture currently undermining development of certain countries. A first step in rethinking the global rules of governing finance, taxation, trade, and also sharing knowledge to maximize the dignity of people.
And this is the one thing that we want to suggest to the international market, to all economies. At the end of the day, as Pope Francis says several times, our economics must serve the well-being of the human person. The human being must be at the center of all the financial systems and everything, including the question about debt.
In Rome, Valentina Di Donato for EWTN News Nightly.
Finally, tonight there are celebrations all year for the anniversary of the canonization of the first American-born saint. This weekend, 2 events are focused on our souls. Both journeys feature walking. One of them retraces St. Elizabeth Ann Seton's original path from Baltimore to the shrine in her honor located in Emmitsburg, Maryland. The other also starts in a shrine after a 218-mile walking journey over 14 days. The Camino of Maryland is based on the famous Camino de Santiago in Spain. For more on this, let's check in with Rob Judge, Executive Director of the National Shrine of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton. Rob, thank you so much for joining us. And first of all, how did these 2 events come together?
Oh, thank you so much for having us. So this year, of course, is the 50th anniversary of Mother Seton's canonization back in 1975. And these 2 pilgrimages are efforts to pray and to draw attention to her canonization. And they both are going to culminate in Emmitsburg on the Feast of Corpus Christi this Sunday.
Beautiful. And I understand that people are going to get their steps in, lots of walking involved.
Lots of walking. So the pilgrimage that the shrine is doing now retraces the steps of Elizabeth Ann Seton made back in 1809. She went from Baltimore up to Emmitsburg, Maryland, where the shrine is located today. It's 55 miles in 4 days, and we have about 15 pilgrims that are making that entire journey. We're stopping at churches along the way and praying and having adoration, and it's just a beautiful celebration of that milestone for American Catholics.
I tell you what, it is a reminder to us all about the history that the Catholic faith has here in the United States, and remind us again why this year is so special for St. Elizabeth Ann Seton and the Church here in the United States.
So it was 50 years ago, this September 14th, back in 1975, that the Holy Father declared Elizabeth Ann Seton to be the first native-born American saint, and that was just a tremendous milestone. The country, then almost 200 years old, there had been yet someone from our grounds raised to the altar. So it was tremendous. And today there's over 100 people that are on their way to canonizations, different stages. So it's a celebration really of the universal call to holiness, that we're all called to be saints through God's grace.
And I understand that you have some other events planned for the anniversary as well.
We do. So all year we have a very special exhibit entitled One of Us, the Making of an American Saint, where we have artifacts and mementos from the canonization, including the papal bull, a special presentation of other American saints, and that's available at the shrine all the way through next January. And then, of course, on September 14th, we will have a very big celebration at the Seton Shrine. Archbishop William Lori will be our principal celebrant for an 11:30 Mass. And then we're going to have representatives from over 20 guilds of saints on their way from across the country, other American saints. We'll have food, entertainment. It'll just be a great day of festive family and faith.
Now, is it too late for people to get involved? Let's say somebody locally is watching this and wants to be able to take part in the pilgrimage. Can they still do that?
Absolutely. They can go to our website for all the details, setonshrine.org. And of course, the big day is Sunday, when we have these two pilgrimages, the Footsteps of Elizabeth Seton, plus the Maryland Camino. They've been walking for the last week and a half from Point Lookout, southern Maryland, all the way up to the shrine. Both of these walking pilgrimages will converge on the shrine around lunchtime. We have Mass at 11, we have another Mass at 1:30, and then a Eucharistic procession. Food trucks and the museum and houses are open. All the information is at setonshrine.org.
Oh, that's beautiful. Rob Judge, thank you so much for joining us, and may you have wonderful events out there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the coverage, and God bless to all your listeners.
We want to thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Eric Rosales. Have yourself a wonderful night y vaya con Dios.